I really need to let this out. I can't bear to live with what happened that night anymore. Every time I close my eyes, I can see the death in her eyes and the malice in his. I had just recently moved out to Scotland with my fiancée. We had moved to a beautiful town in the north called Ugrin. We were 2 weeks in. Everything was going well. We had settled in just fine. We thought we were going to live a long, happy life here. Oh, how wrong we were. On the third week, strange things started happening to us. On one night that would change our lives. My fiancée received a phone call at 4 a.m. A strange time for anyone to receive a phone call. She looked up, blinded by the light on her mobile, and answered with a tired, "Hello?" This was followed by more hellos. Then she hung up. She said she can only hear a very faint screaming noise in the background of the phone. Unsettled, she turned her phone off so she would not receive a phone call. 5 minutes after the phone call, I received a phone call. This time it was just pure static we could hear. We're laughing in the background. I immediately got very angry at this disturbing little game someone was playing with us. I cursed and told them to stop phoning. After that, the static stopped, and all that was heard was a huge bang on the front door. We both jumped. She clutched onto me, crying, terrified. I told her everything was going to be alright. I got up, told her to stay there, put on my dressing gown, grabbed the bat, and walked to the door. I pulled the curtain covering the window and the door to find a message. The message read, "You shouldn't have left her alone." As soon as I finished reading, I heard a scream coming from upstairs. I immediately ran upstairs to find myself frozen at the entrance of her bedroom. There, my wife was standing, blood dripping from her neck, looking right into my eyes, sobbing for me to help. And there was that thing behind her, the fucking thing that ruined my fucking life. It was a tall, completely naked creature, humanoid in shape. It was completely bald and had very skinny limbs. You could almost see its bones. Its face was the most horrendous thing I'd ever seen in my life. It had a huge smile on its face, stretching right across, and it had completely bloodshot eyes. One significantly smaller than the other. I'd never felt this feeling before. I couldn't do anything. I was literally frozen. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even say how sorry I was. And all I could do was cry. This creature slowly crept towards me, with my fiancé in his clutches. His face came down to my height, and he looked right in my eyes. At this point, he started to scream. However, all that came out of his mouth was static. I was terrified. He ran back very quickly to the window and jumped out with her. As soon as he left the building, I fell to the ground. I jumped up to look outside to see if I could see her with it, but they were nowhere to be seen. 2 days later, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept. I had just been researching to see if anyone knew what this was, if anyone had ever related to me. I had filled out a missing persons report at the local police station, who was extensively investigating the disappearance. Nobody had ever heard of this thing that I had seen. A month had gone by. Nothing happened. I hadn't been working. I barely slept. I could barely live anymore. I took a razor blade to my wrists. As the blood seeped from my wound, it felt like all the pain of the past events was flowing away. I looked up from the bathroom sink to the mirror, and he was there, smiling just like before. Blood dripped from his eyes as he held my fiance's head up, severed from the body. Again he screamed static, and I fell to the floor. I felt my body growing weak as my wrists bled. I was terrified to look at the mirror, but I felt I had to. As I slowly rose from the ground, my reflection matched his. I was looking right into his eyes, where my body should have been. I slowly raised my hand and in the reflection, I was holding her head. As I looked at my right hand, there it was. I was holding my wife's head. I screamed and dropped it, but my screams were static. As the blood began running thick and black, I knew I was coming close to the end. I felt my body going cold. Surely I couldn't have killed my fiancé. Surely not. I fell asleep. I woke up in a hospital bed, confused, wrists bandaged. As I awoke, 2 policemen walked into the room and told me they had some questions for me. They told me her head was found in my house, and I was not going to be going anywhere for a while. They told me to rest, and that they would come back later. As I walked out of the room, one of them turned around and said, "Oh, and one last thing." His mouth then opened incredibly wide, and the only sound that filled the room was pure static.